Okay, so the Rapid Breach Response program was initiated in order to provide our customers with a fast response to high-profile breaches, attacks, CVEs, knowing that the first few hours and days are mostly focused around chasing valuable information, detection and remediation capabilities. Our focus is to save you guys time and workforce while collaborating with all Palo Alto Networks groups in order to provide you the most comprehensive playbook possible at the time. I'm guessing many of you are asking yourself how we decide which incident should be answered and when. There are many factors when deciding which incident should be released with a playbook, like the scope of the incident, how destructive can the incident be. But I think the main factor for our group is what is the potential of damage to our customers in a manner of what kind of incident is it? Is it a code execution vulnerability, a supply chain attack? Can it be exploited remotely, or whether we already see it exploited in the wild? All of these are the main factors when we decide what incident should be answered and when. So if we'll take, for example, some high volume incidents, so we have Kaseya and SolarWinds that got a playbook, CodeCov and Log4j also got covered. All of these incidents have impacted organizations around the world, and the basic assumption is that if this big, the spread, we should provide a playbook for this incident as well. So in the following slides, we will cover some basics of the playbook incident response lifecycle, which phases are mostly covered by XSOAR, and a bit of XSOAR products coverage, both for third parties and, of course, the Palo Alto Networks suite of products. So a normal playbook will usually start with enriching and collecting and enriching indicators of compromise. Note that with out-of-the-box automations, these indicators will be updated with every playbook execution. We also provide in this step all the detection rules available in no matter what format it is. It can be Suricata, Snort, Yara rules, and Sigma, which have been provided in the Log4j playbook. We then move on to identify vulnerable applications. We usually leverage Cortex XDR, Cortex Expanse to identify these systems. We also use third-party SIEMs to hunt for vulnerable applications. Then we move on for the investigation phase, where we want to investigate known attack vectors. This investigation is aimed in order to determine whether an asset has been compromised or not. And if we do have findings, we move on to remediating the threat, whether it's using containment phases like blocking indicators or device isolation, or mitigating both manual and automatic tasks. And the final stage, of course, it's recovery, where we get things back to business. If a device was isolated, we will unisolate it. Same for files. etc. So as for the XSOAR products coverage, currently in most of the rapid breach response playbooks, we support more than 20 integration with various third-party tools. It can be either threat intelligence, firewalls, SIEMs, EDRs, whatever holds a relevant content to our playbook will be provided within it. And for the Palo Alto Networks product suite, we try to leverage XDR analytical and BIOX, ABIOX and BIOX, XDR MTH queries. We use Expanse for the attack surface. We query for issues in order to get vulnerable devices. PAN-OS for threat IDs, Prisma Cloud Defender, and Prisma Access, of course. All of these are taken under consideration when building a playbook. We also collaborating with the groups themselves in order to share knowledge and put all of that inside our playbook. Okay, so recently, around 2 months ago, we've released the new Rapid Breach Response layout. The goal was to provide only the necessary information in 3 tabs in order for your analyst or the manager itself to get familiar in the fastest way with the incident, with the scope of the incident itself, and the incident response needed to be taken. So the first tab is the incident info tab. The main goal is to give the analyst all the relevant information to get familiar with the incident, the data collected, and the scope of the attack. So as you can see here, we summarize the total indicators collected within the playbook, the severity of the playbook. All of the indicators are presented here with their verdicts and related incidents. And the playbook description is also available within this tab with the relevant links. And of course, also the signature files we've downloaded within the playbook are available here for the direct download. The second tab, and I think is the most important one, is the IR procedures tab. And its goal is to track all incident response tasks available in the playbook. The main section is the IR tracking, where an analyst can view the task name, the status, the completion time, and you can also pivot to the direct task using the task ID by clicking the task ID. So you can keep track on the playbook execution flow. And the third tab is the hunting results tab. It has 3 sections which provide. The first one will provide you the raw results of the SIEM hunting results. The second one is raw results for Panorama and Cortex data lake results. And the third one is threat hunting results based on unified fields for all of the products we used for the hunting phase, whether it's the third-party SIEMs or Palo Alto Networks products. So what are our main goals and challenges with the Rapid Breach Response program? There are 4 main goals my team is focusing on. The first one, we want to deliver our playbooks as soon as possible. That comes with a disadvantage, that is, it's the lack of information available at the incident early hours. We try to overcome it with all PAN-W collaboration, where no matter which employee from all groups can share his knowledge, his analysis for these incidents, and recommended action plans. We use all of this information provided in a dedicated war room in order to provide to have the all Palo Alto Networks product suite. So we put a lot of effort into creating dedicated content, if not available, for these third-party products based on our team's hands-on experience. The third one is the automation. I know we are a SOAR platform, but there are risky automations that are a bit of a challenge. Automations like remediation, mitigation, and eradication always pose an higher risk when executed automatically. So when we are handling an incident, we put also a lot of effort in continuous development, where we create and build our own labs in order to carefully explore and develop new capabilities for these particular tasks, such as remediation, mitigations, if we want to modify some registry keys, and stuff like this, which are much more riskier. We try to overcome it with incident development. And the fourth one is staying current with the latest data published. And this is also a challenge. Many researchers share knowledge via different platforms. Blogs keep updating their IOCs. In XSOAR, we try to overcome it with out-of-the-box automation, which update the playbooks with every new information and with every execution, and a lot of in-house research. So if a blog posts some updates in another day for the incident, when the playbook is executed, we have inline indicator extraction, and we can get all the latest indicators presented within the blog. And I think we can move on to the Log4j vulnerability, also known as Log4Shell, critical remote code execution vulnerability in the popular Java library Log4j. Let's start with a quick overview. So on December 9th, a security researcher found and published a severe RC vulnerability in Log4j, which is responsible for logging Apache events and leverage within numerous Java applications worldwide. On the 10th, NIST has published a CVE for this vulnerability with a CVSS score of 10, which is 10 out of 10, the higher score available. And during the 6th to the 27th of December, some more vulnerabilities have been released, also covered within our playbook. And since December, we've seen a lot of exploitation attacks that are being tracked by several groups in Palo Alto networks, which got to numbers of more than 10 million exploitation attempts per day. So where does this vulnerability hides? The Log4j library uses a plugin called JNDI lookup. JNDI is a Java naming and directory interface. And this plugin is responsible for locating Java objects in different folders. And these folders can be tracked using various services. And one of them is LDAP, secure LDAP, DNS, and RMI, as you can see at the upper left corner. The problem lies in the way of implementing the JNDI plugin by the Log4j developers, where instead of restricting the queries to be made only to internal servers, they allowed passing any server, local or remote. So all an attacker needs to do is pass a crafted request in order to exploit this vulnerability, and we will see it in a minute. Here you can see two examples for Log4j vulnerability and malicious usage. The first one is directing to a malicious Java class, and the second one is used only for a data exfiltration, where the attacker asks for a specific environmental variable and exfiltrate it using the request. Okay, the Log4j2 exploitation flow. To exploit this vulnerability, as you can see at phase one, all an attacker needs to do is to send the crafted request. The crafted request should be in one of the request headers that is likely to be logged by the vulnerable Log4j server. In this case, as you can see, it's the user agent. The vulnerable server will query for the attacker server when it interrupts the string and search for the malicious Java class object, and will download and execute it in the vulnerable server. So what is the Palo Alto Network's full core defense for Apache Log4j? If we talk about incident scoping in a manner of what systems need to be patched, so we have first the Cortex XSOAR, which provides the attack surface and can detect security vulnerabilities. We also have the Prisma Cloud Defender that can detect a component affected by this vulnerability. And we also use SQL queries to hunt for known Log4j vulnerable versions by their file hash. As for the blocking of the exploit, we have both the next generation firewalls and Prisma Access with the threat prevention security subscriptions that use, which you can see in the playbook in a form of threat IDs. We have the Cortex XDR BTPs and the specific Java deserialization module. And we also have Prisma Access. And I think that's it. Also for Strata, for instance, we have the app ID for the egress traffic and the advanced URL filtering and DNS security. Okay, I think we are done with our coverage for Log4j, and we can move on to the Playbook's demo. One second, please. Okay. So at first, as I mentioned in the earlier slides, we collect indicator of compromise. Here it's from gray noise. We also download indicators in a form of Intel ZIG file that can be implemented later if you are using ZIG, the NIDS. Here we download detection rules. It can be either Yara, Sigma, Suricata, or Snort. We move on for extracting. Because we are downloading from gray noise the indicator as plain text, we use the extract indicators in order to extract all relevant indicators from the response. We continue by tagging the relevant CVEs provided in the Playbook inputs and the IPs collected. We then have the Rapid Breach Response set incident info sub-playbook, which is responsible for setting the source of the indicators. In the new layout, we want you to know where did we get the indicators from, so you can decide if this source is trusted or less reliable by you. So all of these sources are presented within the layout. Also the Playbook description and the total number of indicators collected. Okay. So we move on to the threat hunting phase. We have the Palo Alto Networks hunting, where we hunt both for the indicators collected, IOCs collected, and using Panorama to query for the threat IDs released by them. We use Expanse to search for vulnerable servers and then, of course, present them. And also, we are using Prisma Cloud to search for vulnerable servers. We also have support for third-party SIEMs such as Curator and Splunk. We use them also to hunt for the relevant IOCs. And they both have dedicated Playbook inputs that you should use. Also, in all Rapid Breach Response Playbook, please take your time to go over the Playbook inputs. They might be important in order to some of the tasks to work as expected. So I guess that some of you would like to limit the search on the Splunk indexes, and you can do it by setting the Splunk index input, the source type, the time frame of the search, etc. And we are also querying for exploitation patterns using both QRadar and Splunk, as you can see here. This is the first playbook. We've used the new QRadar create AQL query, where you can provide 3 different fields, their values, and whichever operators you want to use with them. And this script will create the AQL query to be used later in the QRadar full search sub-playbook. We then move on for the hunt using Cortex XDR. Let me start with the agent usage. You can either provide us the endpoint IDs, or and if not, or all are provided in the Playbook input. Sorry, one second. Okay. If all is provided in the Playbook input under XDR endpoints IDs, we will run on all known Linux endpoints within XDR. And we are searching for exploitation patterns using a grep command, both for compressed and uncompressed logs. We also have here the SQL queries, both for on-premises and cloud environments. So we start by creating a list of rare Java processes within the last 90 days. We then move on for a query for known file hashes of vulnerable Log4j versions. Here we try to see any interaction of a process with name Java that interacts with an object called Log4j. And we try also to detect any kind of exploitation using, again, exploitation patterns known. Same for the cloud environment. We then move on to the remediation phase, where we contain the threat using either block indicators or EDLs, both manually and automatically. You can decide it by providing the playbook input. We then move on to mitigation. I know that at the time, all of the mitigations provided are manual, but it's still important to keep track of all the recommended mitigations. And we hope that in the future, some of them could become automatic. So we start with the deployment of the detection rules. All of this, including the Zik Intel file, the patch vulnerability. In the task details, we provide the link for every relevant CVE released. We also have here Unit 42 recommended mitigations, such as disabling the GNDI and GADI lookup, as I think you got familiar with. And finally, at the resolutions phase, we have a manual conditional task where there is an analysis resolution where your analyst or the managers can look at the data collected, at the tasks results, and decide whether to close the investigation or continue with the manual investigation. And I think we are done with the Log4j demo, and I think we can move on to the Q&A. So let me start with the first questions. Are indicators ingested once, or are they continuously ingested? So currently, we have experienced some issues with, for example, Log4j's playbook. And yes, the indicators are being extracted and ingested with every playbook execution. But if they already exist in team, for example, they won't be recreated. What we aim to do is enriching and ingesting only the new indicators and provide you a way also to hunt only for the new indicators with every playbook execution, of course, by your choice, whether to run on all the known indicators or only on the new one. And the second question was, are your third-party SIEM integration capabilities limited to QRadar and Splunk? So the answer for this is no. We aim in the upcoming playbooks to cover more SIEMs. We already tried to cover some of them. Not all have a convenient way for implementing them in our playbook in a generic way. We have no specific reason for the missing ones, and we will try to add as many as possible in order to maximize the usage of this playbook, and especially the hunting phase. The playbook I've demoed is available 12 hours since the first publication at the 9th of December or the 10th, if I recall correctly. It has already got 10 releases with every new information we got, new CV released. So the playbook is available from day one and can be downloaded directly from the marketplace. With that, please update us if you have any kind of issues with these rapid breach response playbooks. We do ask you for the patience because we try to release them as soon as possible. The last one have been released in 12 hours from the attack first rised. So there might be some issues with inputs or queries, etc. So please inform us with everything that pops up. Okay, 1 second. I got another question. Okay, so you can do it using your customer success manager, and he could open bugs for our team to provide a solution for any kind of bug you're encountering. In the recent playbook, let's take Log4j, for example. Some very important issues were raised by some of the customers, and it was very important. Of course, the update influenced all the customers, so everyone got the better playbook because of that issues opened. Okay. So if we don't have any other questions, I would like to thank you for you all for taking the time to joining us today. Please don't forget to give us your feedback so we can improve your experience for future webinars. We fully encourage you to continue to use the content we create, review it, and upload feedback at any given time for us to get better and better with the content we release. And again, for the issues, please keep popping them up. A recording of this webinar will be available on the live community XSOAR Technologies page, along with other recorded webinars, videos, and the Cortex XSOAR resources. And we will email you a link to the live community page, along with other resources presented today after the webinar. So once again, thank you all for joining us. It's been a pleasure. Bye-bye.